Welcome to the Show, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything. I'm Brady.
And I'm Katie.
And in today's episode, we're going to be detonating an improvised hydrogen bomb for our gender reveal party.
Molotov, it's a boy.
So count your toilet paper and bury your gold, because today's episode is actually about doomsday prepping.
And now it's time for I Digress.
So are you prepared?
I'm totally prepared for what?
The end of the world.
So
the elections are coming up. Everybody knows it's literally the end of the world. We're all going to die.
But I thought we're always going to die. Like that.
We are always going to die.
To a hardcore prepper, you're always going to die.
Yeah.
Like the election. Oh, well, that's true. This one is more probable than previous ones, I think.
Yeah, and I don't really want to offend a bunch of preppers out there, but you know what? It needs to be said. They're all itching to eat their MREs. They have to have an excuse. They can't just go eat them just because it's the weekend. They have to eat them because there's a reason.
Well, and I don't want to mock prepping because I am one, but there are different levels of prepper. I'm more of an agrarian one, which means that I like to grow and store food because winter comes every year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and then bad things happen. Practical. So it's nice when you're in the middle of an emergency to crack open something you canned or dehydrated than it is to try to figure out the logistics of getting food and water too. That's why I store things.
Yeah. I pretty much just prep for the week by going to the grocery store and buying a week's worth of groceries.
Oh, I'm prepped for much
how
longer than that. But I don't have this. I don't have the super expensive like Mountain House dehydrated stroganoff. I mean, I would love to have it, but who has like $12,000 to buy a year's worth of supply of food that's prepackaged for 4 people?
Yeah.
It just seems
and then
what do you excessive.
Do? What do you do as that year approaches when it starts to expire?
Oh no, the fancy food is for 30 years.
Oh, 30 years. Okay.
Yeah, you're pretty good to go on that. But it's also anybody that has been in the military knows eating like an MRE every day. One, you're not going to poop. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of important.
Gotta eat too.
It gets old. Fresh food tastes so much better than dehydrated.
I so agree. As you guys listened to our last episode about food,
yeah,
it's yummy.
It is totally yummy.
But if the end of the world starts to happen, I think yummy food goes out the window.
Well, and why do people want the world to end, Brady? Like, I am so lazy. I love 21st century modern conveniences. Dishwashers, showers, the internet.
4K.
Do you guys really want that to end because we can't get along with people that are different than us?
Yeah.
4K.
Yeah.
That just killed
Come on, we're about to get 8K. We can't end the world now.
No, we need to keep on trucking for HD purposes, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. High fidelity media, people. We need it.
Well, we do.
Let it happen. Don't
do.
end the world now just because Trump's about to win.
Don't let global
or Biden,
unrest.
I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm going to call it right now, though. No matter who wins, it's going to be the end of the world to half the people. So, I mean, I don't know why everybody... You know what I think it is lately? Is the coronavirus and all the riots and all this stuff. It threw what we considered normal out of whack.
Yep, it did.
That it seems like it's the end of the world or the end times, as the fundamentalist religious folks would like to tell you it is. When every 10 years it's the end of the goddamn world to them anyway.
Well, they have an actual business model that perpetuates.
Yeah.
You have to have the end of the world all the time, and that's how you keep the lights on. So that's a complete. You're right, though. It's
it's probably something to do with monetary, incentive. But to play devil's advocate on that idea, they could really want to meet Jesus. I mean,
some people do.
To the point where there could be self-fulfilling prophecies someday because it hasn't happened naturally. They're like, I'm going to get my Jesus in.
Well, I'm related to
and my Allah.
Grew up around a lot of fundamentalists, and some of them are very genuine in that they just want to be with the Lord. Like that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, but they're probably not going to end the world to get to that point.
No, because they actually care about humans.
Yeah. And I'm not even judging. Like even with the crazy extremist ones, it's like, I get it. You got sold this idea, and that's just how it is.
Well, and
even if it's true, like it is what it is. But like, I'd rather the world not end. That'd be nice.
Can we have that be a trend next month? Because right now, Brady and I are sitting in a room that is surrounded by smoke. Like for this entire week, we've been socked in because of the fires in the Pacific Northwest. So it looks like nuclear winter outside.
Yes, but because of how normal has been thrown so far out of whack, I was saying, everybody thinks this smoke is the end-all, be-all smoke of the entire universe. It's like,
It's the apocalyptic.
This happens every year.
It
just came a little late this year and all at once.
I think crap has been cumulative this year, and so people are hypersensitive to it. Because also our lives are a little weird, we were talking about earlier, because of the Rona, as far as, like, we have to live hourly to hourly now, instead of, it used to be your kids had practice at this time, school at this time. It's all changing constantly, and I think that's made people a little bit, that are living in normal as much as you can.
So essentially it's the end of the world as we knew it a year ago.
True.
I guess.
So we're nostalgic for 2019?
Yeah, I never thought I'd hear myself say that. I think it's just been building up.
I think so too.
But back to the subject of prepping, like there's a lot of people out there right now, we gotta buy all the guns, we gotta buy all the ammo. Everybody's going insane, shooting each other.
Oh, the ammo shortage is so annoying. For people that actually do things like run a competitive youth shooting sports program and train people, all these people buying all the ammo, it's so frustrating, because it's like you use it for training purposes and for teaching people, and it's like you can't find it because some guy needs 6,000 rounds in his bunker.
So maybe the reason it's the end of the world as we knew it a year ago is because there are people like you guys running the 4-H programs and doing the shooting schools and stuff who are trying to perpetuate that state of normalcy that we were so accustomed to. And then you have all the people who reacted pretty irrationally to the events of the world and are causing the normalcy to disappear instead of it being a natural thing due to those. I think it's all reactionary. Like we were talking about in the Rantastic episode.
Yep.
A lot of this is completely reactionary to
I have 2 words for you. Toilet paper.
Yeah, remember that whole fiasco a few months ago?
Yep.
I love the fact that there was this point in time this year, the beginning of the year, where you literally could not find toilet paper because everybody panicked and bought all the toilet paper. It's too big to have a lot of it on the shelves, and it's just not manufactured as in bulk as, like, let's say, like fucking Rice-A-Roni. Okay, so you can fit like 100 Rice-A-Ronis on the shelf. You can only fit like 10 of each brand of toilet paper maybe on the shelf.
Well, and think about it.
And you can only store so much in the back. It takes up a lot of space.
Manufacturers probably had a formula based on the usage.
Exactly.
And so then all of a sudden that formula just got foobarred.
And it disappeared. Yeah. Well, then since everybody hooked up and the people who finally got their hands on some bought enough for, a couple months, the stores already had back ordered to deal with the shortage, right? Mm-hmm. So then all of a sudden all these stores are overstocked in toilet paper. Then it went on sale.
Yeah.
And nobody was buying. And then they had too much toilet paper. I love the whole cause and effect.
There's like an end cap everywhere of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Well, and I would love it.
Supply and demand kind of relies on a balance and everything being kind of predictable.
If one of you out there bought a lot of toilet paper, I would love to know, what are you doing with it? Like, do you have a 6-year supply of toilet paper and it's just your guest room is now the bounce house? Like, what do you do? Are you doing Cuban bowling?
Wait. Halloween's coming up. There's going to be a lot of people's houses covered in toilet paper.
Oh,
man.
I mean, there's got to be a surplus of toilet paper in America right now. Some people, there has to be.
Oh, man. I can't wait to look back on this in, like, let's say 10 years.
And just, yeah.
And hey, remember when there was, like, the toilet paper shortage of 2020?
Yeah.
And then the surplus of toilet paper for 5 years after?
The toilet paper.
We're all going to be wiping our ass for a long time.
If we have, like, a war because of the Rona and all this stuff in the election, are we going to call it the TP war? Like,
it damn near was a TP war, man. People were damn near fighting over it in the Walmarts.
And come on. Yeah. I hate it when people do, like, done stuff. You don't need 4 Costco-sized packs of toilet paper. That's, like, 4 years worth at my house.
I remember one of my favorite parts about the whole shortage was, like, there was these underground communication networks. Hey, man, I got the line on the TP. Like, hey, I know where to get some Charmin. Hey, man, just don't tell anybody.
I just can't.
Don't tell anybody but the general store on South 5th, man. They got fucking TP up the ass.
Ass shrapnel.
Nowadays, now you got fucking people burn their couch to stay warm, and they had to build a new couch out of the surplus of toilet paper because you don't need to wipe your ass that much.
Well, there's only somebody did the math. Remember, it was going around the Facebook, the math of how much toilet paper an actual human used a year, and so these people had like 20 years worth in their house.
Much.
You know what they're trying to do is instead of flipping houses, they're trying to flip the TP.
Yeah.
Did you ever think?
I think that, and a lot of people did that, and I think Clorox wipes for whatever reason people chose this. Not hand sanitizer, not
it's the
food.
Clorox wipes.
Clorox wipes became like the biggest black market commodity for a few weeks. I don't know why. Everybody was like, I saw some news posts where people filled their entire garage full of Clorox wipes, pallets. I don't know where they got the fucking hookup on that, but they bought them and got them shipped to their house because they probably had a wholesale license because they do some kind of business. And they were fucking peddling that shit and price gouging.
Oh, the price gouging at Amazon was so bad.
There were people getting arrested left and right for price gouging Clorox wipes.
Well, and that goes back. Let's go back to prepping.
I just found them in Walmart shelves like 3 weeks ago. They just came back.
So it's been like 6 months.
But for like 4 months, you couldn't find a single fucking can of Clorox wipes unless you bought them for triple price on Amazon.
And what's funny is, okay, Clorox, people, seriously, a tablespoon of bleach and some water, same thing. You just use this thing called a rag.
I mean, they're very convenient. It's nice.
Them.
It's nice to pull a mass-produced fucking shit wipe out of a can and wipe
Well,
down the
and
surface.
to be fair, I saw this coming, so I went to town and went shopping the February 29th because I knew what was going to go down, and I got 2 jugs of them. I usually only buy one.
Yeah.
I still am using those.
God, you horrible person.
I did. Well,
you took that extra 1 can away from these people that need it from
And you know what's
daycare.
cool is here it is September. I still have some of those wipes because I don't use them that much.
Yeah.
2 cans last me like a year.
Well, since there was a scarcity and they finally hit the shelves, I bought a bundle of 4 because I actually use them a lot because I've got children.
Yeah.
And they make big messes and I have to disinfect a lot of stuff. And I've been using them for everything now because they've been available again. I'm like, oh my god, yes, the Clorox wipes are back. I'm wiping crap that doesn't even need to be cleaned down.
No, your house is super clean. I have a problem with being too clean though. I think it hurts your immune system. And
it does. I don't go
You have a
overboard
baby,
often.
it's different. But like at my house, I rolled my children around out on the farm and I'm like, just eat the goat manure. It'll make, and they don't get sick very much. I think Americans especially are so overafraid. I know that we have a pandemic, but it's like being too clean is just as bad as being not clean enough. Like, I don't know. Well, and that goes back.
I agree. I have to agree because if you just look at the mechanics of your immune system, how it works and why, it needs these samples to go off of. You have to get infected with stuff in order for your immune system to learn how to fight it. And then you're fine because then the next time you get infected with that particular bug, whether it be I guess we have a little bit more trouble with viruses because of the mutations. But like the bacteria and most common viruses, your body will learn how to fight it and be able to just annihilate it before you even get any symptoms.
My gut biome.
And then you won't be sick. So even technically, if you're infected, you won't have any symptoms and don't feel sick at least. So.
Well, I know
but you can still spread it. That's the only bad thing about that.
Well, and that's immunology. There's
you don't know who's sick around
we have all sorts of stuff. Yeah. My gut biome looks like Burning Man. I know there's a lot going on in there because
I think the microbiome is just a kind of a new concept to science. Like it wasn't even really a talking point until like the last 10 years.
Our mental health is derived from it, and people don't even. It's a new. What is that called? It's a type of physiobiology. There's some study now. Science. Psychobiology. That's what it's like. It's a study of how our gut biomes contains and it basically controls most of your well-being, all of it.
We're essentially a superorganism. We're not just a person, guys. We are a host to probably billions of even different types of fucking. You have no idea how many different types of microscopic organisms exist.
We house a lot of stuff
and
in there.
They all if they were like able to glow in the dark, we'd be able to be seen from space because of just the sheer amount of bacteria. We're literally covered head to toe. Every inch of our body, inside and out, is covered in like bacteria and amoebas and all these little microorganisms.
Single-celled friends.
And they rely on us to live. But in turn, I think there's a lot of those that we also rely on to exist.
The system is symbiotic.
It's a huge symbiotic system.
It is.
It's just amazing how balanced it is. It's hard to think that came from a chaotic like world, I guess. I don't know.
The soup?
The soup.
I'm gonna call it the Well, I think
but
that's why.
It's so balanced. Like, and you throw that off. Like, if you start using like the antibacterial soap, and you wash your whole body in that, you just killed off God knows how many bacteria that you probably needed to protect your skin.
Well, and also I think that's why we have so many autoimmune diseases and allergies. I think that our systems are so out of whack. Because think about it, people don't spend time outside.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I guess we're getting off the rails here from prepping.
Cares? Yeah.
But I think that's an important part of prepping. Do you think these people that are buying all this food are going to stay healthy when they can't? Okay, they're part of a system now too, where you're going to the store all the time, and then all of a sudden they're going to be taken out of that system to use their hoard. How's that going to work?
It's not.
Because
what happens when everybody runs out?
Well, and if you don't know,
most people, even the most hardcore preppers, you might be okay for 5 years.
Yeah, but do you know how to gut a chicken?
Even if you don't. you're screwed. Even if you do, you're screwed. That's where I was going with that.
And something else.
Like, where are you going to store the meat?
Also,
there's usually a surplus of meat. If you don't have, if it's just you and like a few people in your family, what are you going to do with the extra shit? And if you dispose of it, how are you going to dispose of it without causing any hygiene problems?
My biggest problem with hardcore prepping, and I'm talking about a stereotypical one, is the isolationism. It's like if you don't have a good relationship with your neighbors, you are not going to make it, because you got to protect your horde too.
I've seen so many of these like survival shows. Not like Bear Grylls survival, but like these fucking like Walking Dead and all these like post-apocalyptic movies where people are surviving. And it's like, there's all these little factions at war with each other. So I was like, I have a feeling it wouldn't even be that bad. Like, we wouldn't... Yeah, we fight a lot now, like with tribalism and stuff. But I have a feeling that literal apocalypse happened or whatever, and there was some survivors. I think everybody would generally get along because we realize we need each other to survive.
Well,
like,
and it
straight up, like it's not something you can really do solo. You're not better off solo.
But the fighting will happen regardless because of tribalism, and
there's going to be some of that.
It'll be infighting. It'll be psychological. You can see it in any group. Go to a high school and see how the tribes divide up. But you're right. A survival kind of makes some stuff go out the window. It actually becomes more harsh. Humans become more harsh when they're higher stakes. You do.
Yeah. There's been a lot of studies on that too, like why. Exactly, like the neurology, how your neurology changes when you're like hungry.
Well, and if you have if you say you have 30 years worth of food and you're in your little prep land and your bunker, someone's going to try to take it from you.
Yeah, that's the other aspect of it is like, especially if you're going to hoard it and not share, there's going to be a lot of angry people that you're not sharing. Much like like why everybody's so pissed at Jeff Bezos right now.
Because he's not sharing
even though
his
it's
money,
like he doesn't really have $100 billion. He just has a lot of things worth a lot of money that accumulate to an estimated $100 billion or whatever the hell the number is.
Oh, we could do an
But everybody's pissed at him like he's
finances.
hoarding everything in the world. It's like, he's just running a businth.
He probably literally doesn't have $100 million in cash because assets are different than...
But let's say it's an apocalypse scenario. If you have $100 billion worth of fucking storable food, let's just take the monetary value out of that. I don't know why I said that. But like you have this massive fucking hoard of storable food. Right?
Okay.
And if you're not sharing with some people, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, I really need that food. I am starving. I don't know how to hunt. Or I ran out of the food that I hunted.
Okay.
And I'm running low on energy. They're going to come at you with everything they've got. They will die trying to get your fucking storage of food.
You'll probably die defending your hoard.
So all of a sudden, you have to have not only food, but you have to build some kind of formidable defense around the food. You have to fucking pretty much guard it all day long.
You need mercenaries to protect it.
And that also means like you have to be proficient in weaponry, whether it be firearms, which are a limited resource because you have to use ammunition. Same with bows and arrows, or any kind of melee weapon. That's going to take your energy, and that's going to put you at a lot of risk of injury.
Well, and that's just it.
It's just there's the only reason I'm talking about this is like there's a lot of these tiny little like nuance aspects to survival that people don't think about.
Well, we were just talking about symbiosis, though. Humans, I know being an introvert's cool right now, but we are not isolated. We have to work together to survive. That is how it has always been.
Yeah.
Sure, there's Jeremiah Johnsons out there that could live out in the woods by themselves, but it's still, what if something happens to you? We all don't have the same attributes, so one of you might need to be good at, like, stitching people up. One of you might need to be good at growing things.
Exactly. Is there ever going to just be one guy who just knows how to do all that stuff?
It's not possible.
Probably not. And even if he could, he wouldn't have the time.
And what if he gets the plague? Like,
yeah, then what if he ends up dying? Then the rest of everybody's screwed? It's like the whole scenario, like, what if all the lights turned off right now and all the smart people are dead? What are we going to do?
Become idiocracy.
It's the same kind of thing like that. It's like...
Put Gatorade on our corn?
Yeah, we wouldn't survive long. Let's just put it that way. So, like, everybody's good at something.
Yes.
And so we have to combine as a group, combine our knowledges and our proficiencies to, like, create a community that'll thrive in a survival scenario. And essentially, that's how we got to the way the world is right now.
Which, as bad as things seems, it's actually less violent and horrible than it ever has been in history.
Yeah, even if it seems bad as people are fighting over dumb stuff right now, but like it really is a lot better than it's ever been.
It really
realistically,
is.
Just go seriously. Get on YouTube and just look at any story from any time in history. It's always something violent. Like the entire world is at some kind of turmoil about something and killing each other.
How about the first half of the last century? Like how many millions of people died in this century? We haven't started out that way.
Look at World War II.
Yeah,
that was not that long ago. Like, there's people alive who were in that.
It. And that's what I'm saying. We need to remember that the first 20 years into this new century, we haven't lost life on that scale yet. I don't want us to. Well, I feel
well,
like
so
we're
far
hurdling...
the only thing taking a supposed mass amount of life anymore is not even just coronavirus, but just like the flu. And essentially, even though we're at war with ourselves a little bit, we're more at war with like the planet.
Yeah.
And again, that's why society is the way it is now, because since the beginning of life on this planet, it's been a constant struggle to fight the forces that, try to snuff out life. And that's why we've evolved. That's why life evolved in the first place, was to get better at, fending off those forces, but it's not perfect yet.
Well, and we're in a different battle in affluent nations, because there's so many of us alive that wouldn't have been in that system, that now we have a different set of problems to deal with. And I think that's a lot of the reason why there's all this infighting all the time too. It's like our fighting has shifted. It's not in person anymore to survive. It's ideological.
I think that's what it is. Shift. I think a lot of it is our turmoil is almost forced, because it's in our nature to be able to react to turmoil.
So humans don't need leisure time, because then we're stupid.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, that's slightly accurate, but at the same time, it's like
being hyperbolic.
But again, like not everybody. There's a good hunk of people who are fighting every day just to survive, as far as basic needs like food and shelter.
They're out there, yes.
But the majority of the planet right now has all of the basic needs to stay alive, and at least a decent amount of access to those.
And we know that's
and so, the little fighting and crap, it is all ideological. And it almost seems kind of silly to be fighting over that kind of bull crap.
Well, it seems contrived. And there's still problems that need to be solved, because there are chunks of people on this planet that don't have the basic needs met in the way that it should be.
But everybody who has more access than others aren't sharing either. And that's the weird part.
Well, and there's a huge group of people that want to coerce and force the people to share that. And I don't like that either. That's not going to end well.
It shouldn't be forced, but like we should, at least out of our goodwill, be... All I'm trying to say is, like, I don't like the idea of socialism or fascism, but why is anybody starving on this planet in 2020?
Well, and
when the resources exist to feed them.
I'm all about voluntary.
To say, we're overpopulating and there's not going to be enough food. No, there's plenty of resources to sustain how many people are on the planet. I think the planet will always constantly recycle,
Oh, I'm looking forward to, like Neil Stephenson said, 3D print salmon for people in the cities and stuff. I mean, we're getting there.
There's going to be, even that still takes some kind of raw resource to be mined out of the planet. Like, the real resources that are going to run out are the ones that are not really necessary for survival, like the fucking palladium that we're putting in our cell phones and all that shit.
We're going to get those
that might run out, and we'll probably go and get it from space, but that also requires rocket fuel. Then we got to get another resource. But realistically...
We find a way.
We don't need all that. As long as the food sustains, at least we'll have at least a lot of people surviving.
Well, and I can tell you...
But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who won't survive without their fucking iPhone and their toilet. You know what I mean?
I like the toilet, but I don't need it.
The hard resources that will run out, there's a lot of people who rely on that kind of stuff when it's not necessary, but they still rely on it, and there's a lot of people who will die if that kind of shit runs out.
People are going to die if they don't have food provided to them. As someone who grows food, it is an art.
You just need food, yeah.
You
need arable soil at the very least.
It doesn't take a lot of space. And actually, what's funny is with hydroponics, you can grow food without soil, but you still have to have resources. You're going to have the nitrates.
There's always some kind of resource.
The thing is, though, is we waste so much land in this country. I can't speak for other countries, but you can grow in 1,000 square feet enough food for 4 people for a year if you do intensive, growth management, like, what is it, permaculture?
Yeah.
But people have to want to do the work, and most people don't, and then they complain about the food they eat, but in reality, you could get a couple bags of compost and grow enough salad greens in your apartment.
Yeah, if it's just a family of 3 or 4...
It can be done.
You can grow most of your own food, and there's a lot of ways to do it. Fucking harvest crickets; they're really good for protein. Or grasshoppers. That's what I've been hearing. There's this movement.
Out the box.
There's this insectivore movement going on since the last I think it's 5 years ago. It really started to get popular.
It seemed kind of crunchy.
But they did all these studies. There's a lot of insects that have a lot of protein per gram, and they're very easy to farm. They're very easy to feed. And you could just use that as your protein source, and the bioavailability is apparently really good. And then you grow some vegetables, and you'll be all right.
Well, I didn't experiment.
So it's not super labor intensive. You don't have to have fucking cows and chickens.
No, you don't. And cows are actually a 1%er food.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because they require so much. You have to use arable land for food to feed the cow, and you're gonna have to put a lot of input. A cow will drink 30 gallons of water a day. It will eat an astronomical amount of food. Whereas, I did an experiment 2 winters ago where I made my own grow shelf, and I grew all my own greens. Instead of buying them at the store, I grew them and had them on a rotation. But you know what, guys? It takes work.
We also have, we're lucky to have access to at least some amount of land that you can grow. What about these people in New York? They don't have no fucking grass.
You have to get creative.
You're gonna grow a crop in a flower box hanging out of a window of a 30-story building.
You would be surprised what you can
People
grow
do that,
in
though.
an apartment.
I've seen that shit. People growing strawberries in like the 30th floor. But it's just for a snack. It ain't gonna feed you for.
No, you need. But community gardens are a thing. And look, there's this gigantic, massive land in New York. I think it's central.
It might be right in the center.
I think it's in the center. I'm just saying that there are spaces you could have. How about take a chunk of that and have it be a public garden?
Well, why would they do that when it can just be unused grass for homeless people
Grass
to sleep in?
is so expensive and wasteful if you don't live in England or somewhere that rains all the time.
Yeah.
Like the amount of money and time and water.
Well,
and
even
I love
a lot
grass.
of places, like there's a lot of land in England, but like the major metropolitan areas, there's not a lot of fucking grass there.
Well, that is true, but then instead of concrete, you could have box gardens. I mean, there's stuff you could do.
That's true. Like down in Arizona, I see a lot of people have like gravel yards instead of grass.
I love xeriscaping.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of cool. I kind of want that here, but at the same time, that's a lot of gravel.
I'm in the process of turning half my front yard into a gravel garden.
But we're lucky enough to have just like an abundance of arable soil around us to grow stuff in.
We live in a food belt.
Yeah, and if it's not arable enough, I mean, put your fucking poop in a bag for a few months. You got enough fertilizer to be fine. That's what they're gonna do on Mars.
Humanure.
They're gonna grow their fucking poop potatoes.
Ew, I know what people eat. Like
astronauts might be different because they might have to like focus. So this is also to do with prepping because we're about to send people to Mars, the ultimate survival test of humanity.
Colonizing.
Talk about prepping. They don't even get to bring that much crap with them. They might be able to bring a week's worth of food on that rocket because of the weight to fuel ratio and all this other shit.
How are they going to do it?
Space travel's complicated, but let's say they actually successfully get there. They don't die on impact when they're landing on the planet. That's probably the highest likely scenario that's going to happen. Like we almost lost every rover we sent up there, and those are fucking robots.
It must have some serious atmosphere.
But they got these plans. I'm not a damn Mars expert or a NASA engineer, but they have these plans. Okay, supposedly these smart people are smart. So they're gonna send these people to Mars. You'd be fucking suicidal and crazy to go to Mars, but there's these brave people out there willing to go to Mars. They don't have anything to eat there. There's no soil. There's no land. It's highly radioactive everywhere.
Yeah.
They don't even have an atmosphere. There's no breathable air.
You gotta live in a pod.
So you gotta live in this pod, and it's like, it's just insane to even think about. But essentially, they're gonna have to worry about what they eat because what they poop is going to be how they grow their food. So they're gonna have to like maximize the efficacy of their fertilizer that they're producing out of their body. So they have to eat specific nutrients to even like produce the special.
Are they going to have to eat a high nitrogen?
Yeah, because they're scientists. Like the people who are going to Mars essentially are going to be scientists. It ain't like that Space Force show on Netflix, which is hilarious, by the way, where they're just going to send a bunch of fucking idiots and a janitor up there.
But I loved that episode.
They're legitimate scientists with possible combat training.
With possible,
because China's going to.
Yeah, they're going to take.
If we go to the fucking Mars, China's going to go to Mars, and Russia's going to go to Mars, and India's going to go to Mars, and I think Iran just had a fucking space program or something. I don't know.
We'll just take the Cold War there. It's cold there anyway.
Cold War there.
We're going to take the Cold War to
So I'm
Mars.
sure there'll be a few people with combat training, but for the most part, they're scientists, so they're going to like try to maximize the efficiency of everything in order to survive as long as possible so that they can maybe hold out until we can send enough materials to build a rocket to return home.
But the thing is how
or the first wave might die, but they'll have laid the groundwork for the second wave to survive a little longer. So I think it might be like that might be their plan. Like we know the first few waves are gonna die, but they'll be able to like build the infrastructure for the final wave of people to have the returnable rocket back to Earth, or the entire thing will fail and we'll just send hundreds of people off to their death on Mars. Which I mean, hey.
How do you prep
if that's
for
what you
want
to do with your life, go die on Mars.
How do you prep for something like that, though? Are we going to have to stockpile stuff at the ISS? Because, there are payload limits. Yeah. So now we have your reusable rockets. Are we going to have to take prepper food up there, and then it'll go space prepper?
Well, here's the thing. Once you send the first wave, they're not going to be able to sustain themselves for any real amount of time. Maybe at least enough time until we send another rocket up there with more supplies, and even that's very limited.
We're going to have to have payloads going all the time. You can't
send that much stuff there. It takes so long to get to, and this is it's not the nearest planet to us, but like that's our neighbor planet, like, and it takes months to just send a rocket there, and we're talking about rockets like the fastest traveling thing we can possibly create on this planet.
8 months.
It still takes months to get there, and that's our fucking neighbor. And the whole thing just seems completely absurd when you look at the numbers and everything. Like, even just going to the moon is just insane.
Yeah, but crossing the Atlantic Ocean probably seemed absurd. Think
about that.
I mean,
It's all relative.
It is. I was just
pretty soon we're gonna be like Proxima Centauri or whatever is gonna seem like really close because we're already off like hundreds of light years away.
Yeah,
like,
first Mars.
I don't know why I said pretty soon. It's gonna be like
hundreds
of lifetimes, before, like hundreds of generations of people before we get to even the nearest star.
But in the scope of time, that's not that
like
far.
we'll have destroyed our entire planet from nuclear war before we probably ever see another star in person.
I don't want to do that. I prep because winter comes every year. I don't want to prep for the end of the world. I'd rather just die.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the circle. Like
I was just
all these preppers happening. I've always thought this. Okay, there's a lot of people prepping and stuff for like shit to go down, for like society to collapse. But like a lot of people prep for the apocalypse. It's like,
why would you want to live through
the apocalypse? Like everybody's gonna die all at once. Maybe, let's hope. Like that's it. Best case scenario, a fucking meteor hits the earth and we all die at once. How the fuck was 30 years of food gonna help you there, my friend? I'm sorry.
I don't want to keep. Why would you want to live? And just go on the next journey.
In the event of like nuclear war, like. It's pretty much like the end of the world. Like nobody's gonna survive that. Like even like the richest, most powerful elites, unless they get themselves to Mars, they're not gonna survive. Then they're on Mars. A week later, they're dead.
And so what if you're in your 1%er bunker? So what? Like
you can't come out. How much food do you have? Well, there's no more food up here because we fucking burnt it to a crisp with the nukes, turned it to glass.
Even if you spend another 30 years... I'm sorry, I just have to say this. I'm really sad that David Bowie's not with us because I want him to write a song called Space Prepper.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
But moving on. Sorry, that just popped my brain.
Okay. David Bowie was awesome.
Well, just that.
He would write a
Space Prepper song because that's just it. Why would you want to stay alive in nuclear winter?
I don't.
You're gonna get cancer if you breathe in any of the radioactive particles. It's like it's not gonna be a fun way to die.
Now we're talking about some really interesting philosophy here. Like,
okay.
Who really does want to perpetuate life on Earth when Earth is absolutely uninhabitable and under like normal circumstances? Like the fight to survive would just be almost like not. It's just, I personally think it wouldn't be worth it. Fucking let life on Earth die then at that point. Like, come on, like.
I don't know. You watch Jurassic Park. Life finds a way.
That's true. Life finds a way, but why? Like, what is the persistence there? I think we touched a little bit on that in the.
Was that the transcend?
I think
our
when we had
episode, the little AI one.
Yeah, when we
talked
kind of
about
went
this
off
a bit
in our tangential episode.
There we go.
Like in the first place, what is the persistence to live? Like, why did life persist so hard that it had to evolve to adapt? I never understood it. Does anyone understand that? If anybody kind of has an idea of that or like a philosophy to help me out with that question, like, I guess it's like the biggest question to answer. Like, why are we here?
Well, it's the
essentially
question.
That breaks down to that.
That's the existential question.
But like, really, so if anyone has any leave us comments on our YouTube channel, go on our social media, something. I'd love to discuss this with people. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss because like. Everything in the universe is made of the same subatomic particles, just arranged differently. And somehow this magic happened where it arranged in a special way to form these things we call life, like DNA, I guess. And its only goal was to replicate itself under any, like, no matter what the circumstances are. And by God, it did. And it was a struggle. It was nothing but a struggle for it.
And it still is.
And it just kept adapting to that struggle until it was. Now we're here with we're here making a podcast.
Always keep replicating.
We're about to have 8K TVs. Come on, people.
8K.
Let's keep on surviving. PS5's about to release.
Well, and also speaking of commentary, I would love to hear from an apocalyptic prepper because, like I said, I'm an agrarian prepper, so I prep because emergencies happen and. I like the comfort that comes from knowing that I have a lot of food because growing up we were a little less wealthy and so food is important to me. I am food motivated for my prepping, but these apocalyptic preppers and rapture preppers and people prepping for the end of the world, I want to know about that. Like I want to know what your motivations are and I'm not going to make fun of you. I think it's fascinating.
No, I'm not judging anybody because like legitimately, it's good to be prepared. There's no shame in that. But it's like
your life
at the same
become
time,
obsessive.
It's not like we're actually nearing an apocalypse. I really don't believe that myself personally.
I think
some people really do believe that, and that's okay. You know, everybody is entitled to their own beliefs.
I think we're in a shift. We're shifting, and a lot of it is because
there's definitely a shift.
A shift is occurring because you think about it. The same people that have been running the country since the mid '70s, they're getting old and dying.
Yeah,
and so we're shifting into a new realm.
Hold that thought real quick.
Okay.
I'd like to discuss that, but first I kind of chuckled a little bit because I didn't even realize until just this very moment when you said that. There's so many factions of even preppers.
There are.
I love it. And like, do you think they're gonna start fighting each other, or like
over their horde?
Pure tribalism, like we do on Facebook about everything?
I don't know.
The preppers fight about prepping?
Okay, let's talk about all these tactical people that think they're tough and they go get their AR training. It is so easy to do it when things are good.
I love
it
tribalism.
is not easy. I know, there's probably going to be prepper factions fighting over different... My freeze-dried beef.
I'm prepping because God's coming down to smite us all down. Well, I'm prepping because the nukes are coming. Well, I'm fucking prepping just because I can.
There's people prepping because of Man-Bear Pig, too, because of climate change.
Yeah, and then I love how many different factions of preppers there are, and it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's not good, guys. Prep all you want. Like, it's good to be prepared.
Are there preppers in other countries? Because I
feel of course there is. There's got to be.
Not to the degree there is in America. I think
America is a land of surplus and luxury.
We have a doomsday prepper show. Mm-hmm. I feel.
Oh, you know how we did our episode on glamping?
Yes.
Is there like a glamping version of prepping?
Of course there is.
1%er prepping?
There's 1%er bunkers.
Like, is there fucking bunkers out there that are literally just mansions dug into the ground?
There are. They were on the news the other day.
If anybody has pictures of these, save me the Google search. I want to see them. Send them to me.
We might have to link this into the thing.
I love this. I love the
bunkers.
idea of 1%er bunkers. Like, even I don't even think I think even like the presidential bunkers and stuff down there are pretty minimalistic.
Well,
for like the political leaders, but like there's got to be some billionaires out there, like Jeff Bezos. If you're listening, I doubt you are, but if this magically enters your eardrums or your ear canals and hits your eardrums, I have to know, like, do you have a 1%er bunker? I know you've been banking on the whole like let's settle on the moon because the Earth is dying thing, but like,
do you think Mr. Musk?
Do you have a bunker on the Earth just in case you can't make it? Just in case all the fucking riches in the world that you can accumulate can't build your space station you're planning on building?
Do you think Mr. Musk has a bunker?
Does anyone have a bunker on the moon yet? That's the real conspiracy question. Tinfoil hat.
Why would you?
Do we have a bunker on the moon?
I don't.
Or do aliens have a bunker on the moon?
I don't want to live anywhere. I can't go outside. Right now, this week, being stuck in the house because of smoke is making me crazy. I am an outside human. I don't want to be stuck inside a bunker. I have always wanted a nuclear fallout bunker just because I think it's amazing, but I don't want to live.
I want a nuclear fallout bunker that lets me survive just long enough to watch it happen, and then I'm just gonna go outside and let it kill me anyway. I've always wanted, like,
the initial blast.
I thought about this a lot in my life. I don't think anyone hasn't thought about the apocalypse a little bit, but like,
we all do.
I just kind of want front row seats. That's all. Like, if the meteor's gonna hit, I want it to hit me personally. I want to be right underneath that motherfucker.
Yeah,
I want to see it coming up until the last inch.
I lived through a tsunami warning. I do not want to get taken out by a wave. I would be.
Yeah, me neither.
Let me just get vaporized.
I want a meteorite. I want a fucking meteor to just destroy the entire planet all in one swoop.
See, that's the problem with apocalypse and prepping. It's actually worse, I think, if you've watched anything. Like, the lingering on. What if you get something like appendicitis? You can't cut your own self open and take it out. It's a relatively simple procedure. Now it's outpatient. Yeah. But in a prepping scenario, not a good time, guys. Plus, you'd probably die from the infection because who knows, even in your horde, are you going to have the right type of antibiotic?
Yeah, talking about this is really opening my eyes. Well, I think I've already kind of knew this, but like, it's bringing to the moment the idea that like we take so much for granted nowadays in the society we've built, and I love the society we built. It's got its problems, but realistically, we're better off now than we've ever been, and it's only going to get better. I really think that like it's only ever going to get better. We're going to solve all these little problems. We're going to always have more problems pop up, no matter what we do. It's just yin and yang, you know.
But why are we focusing on the negative so much?
Like, right now, everyone is focused on the negative. Again, I think it's because I think the coronavirus just fucking like punted us out of our comfort zone. Like, nobody wanted it. It just happened.
Well, I thought that in America we were supposed to want hope and change, and we're not liking the change very much.
I think we'll settle back into our comfort zone, and once we do, we'll deal with the political issues that came with this whole thing. Like, the government's definitely not going to give up their power to control when and where people work now that we gave it to them. No, we didn't even give it to them. They just straight up took it. I don't remember voting on any of this. It just happened. They're just like, oh, executive orders. Why do we even have the ability to throw out executive orders? That just seems stupid.
Well, for real, legit emergencies,
no matter what the issue, like, and I'm sorry, this might offend people or whatever. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't, because this is just common sense. Like, why does our government have any kind of executive powers to just do anything without us saying so? Like, I thought that would defy the entire point of the American government in the first place.
Well, they've ate away at it like a little bit of grain of sand at a time.
At a time,
over a long period of time, they erode it.
Even the most dire of situations, we should still take the time and get everybody's opinion. Like, that's true democracy to me.
Well, decisions
even if those
made,
decisions are bad, it was at least a cumulative like idea.
decisions made when people are panicking or because you're facing the unknown often aren't good decisions in the long term.
Yeah.
And I think emergency powers were supposed to be for a short term. And what happens is now they perpetuate.
Yeah, well, look what happened, like 9/11, for example. Gotta go down this rabbit hole. I'm not going to talk about 9/11 specifically, but it
no,
was the catalyst.
The Patriot Act,
It was a catalyst to a lot of that
freedom erosion.
It really made me realize just how, and I was a kid at the time, and I even saw this. Like, I talked about this in the rant episode a lot, but like the way that they just blatantly stole our freedom away. Nobody had a say in it at all, but they did it, and we're still dealing with the effects nowadays, right now.
Well,
and we're 20 years later, pretty much.
Anyone who didn't agree with the erosion of freedoms hated America. And
yeah, because it was called the Patriot Act.
And now with Corona, anybody that doesn't agree with it, you hate grandma.
I encourage everybody to go listen to the one of the newest Joe Rogan episodes is Edward Snowden. But there's just something, there's something he said that was just amazing because they were talking about it started with a really big boom pretty much. Like the episode just kicked off and was already in like high gear. But they were talking about how it was called the Patriot Act. If you're against something called the Patriot Act, you're not a fucking patriot. How dare you? Oh my God. Like, and then Edward Snowden was talking about, like, you know, they make these names on purpose. Like if they made an act called the Save the Puppies Act, how are you going to go against that act? No matter if it has anything to do with saving puppies, most of the time it doesn't.
I have the best anecdotal evidence for this, guys. I worked at the job service. I helped veterans get jobs when I was in college, okay? And they were coming back from Afghanistan at the time. And they passed the Jobs for Veterans Act in 2005. I will never forget this. It had literally nothing to do with jobs or veterans. And I had to go through hundreds of phone calls getting yelled at by crusty people who weren't, you know, and they're veterans, and I'm married to one, but they were not exactly polite to me because it had nothing to do with jobs or veterans. So anytime an act is passed, I figure the opposite of what it's named.
Well, we have Congress. They're supposed to read it, right? They're supposed to read these acts
and vote
on good fruition, right?
No, they lie.
Fruition, is it verse? I don't know. Anyway, my point is, we're supposed to rely on our elected officials to have our best interests at heart.
No, they represent whoever pays them the most.
Oh my God, the whole thing's a mess.
Well,
tear it all down, start over. Come on.
That was the whole point of our system in America, though, is we were supposed to amend it as necessary, and we haven't amended it for a long time. We need to amend.
Yeah, when was our last amendment?
It's been a while. They've been trying to get
Granted,
a constitutional
it was a good
convention.
Thing. Whatever it was awesome. I think it was like somebody got rights. They didn't have rights. They got rights. I think that was the last one that got amended, right?
It was a while ago. We haven't had any amendments.
It's a good thing, but like
we don't need Congress to amend the Constitution, and not very many people know that. We can do a constitutional convention to do it.
Why do we have Congress at all? This whole idea of like, we decide on a spokesman, and every little faction of people has a spokesman to talk to the bigger factions of people, and it's like, I don't like the idea of that. It seems really flawed fundamentally. And there's so many ways that it's been invaded and corrupted, like the news, for instance, swaying people's ideas to...
Oh, the news makes me crazy.
That's the whole thing about, like, yeah, I don't like these executive orders, but at the same time, democracy has been perverted.
Well,
How do we fix any of this? But I don't want to go down another rant right now. We can save that for another episode. We're talking about preppers.
Or just not even food, preppers. The ammunition thing is making me crazy.
But hang on real quick. That brings me to another idea real quick.
I like ideas.
I have to bring this up. In the event of society collapsing and we all go crazy and the preppers are really happy because they have their bunker and their food.
Okay.
What happens to the government? Who governs anything? Because we all have to have an alpha fucking chimp. We all decide an alpha chimp no matter what the scenario is. That's why we have governments in the first place, because we decided we needed a fucking leader. We needed a fucking a daddy to save us all.
I don't know.
So what...
Because we're aware of the alpha chimp, can't we move beyond it now?
And are we stuck in our ways? Like, are we stuck in our ways now? Like, if we have an apocalypse scenario, like, are we going to get together and like
these are
repeat the same
questions,
problems?
So Brady, I don't
know.
Who
takes over? Because it's inevitable. Like, if these survival situations happen, we're gonna group up.
Yes.
And
it starts all over.
There has to be some kind of leadership, right? Or not? I don't know. Like, it's in our DNA. Like, there's no way around the whole. We have to have somebody to lead us. Well, at least ideologically.
I feel like the leadership paradigm is a weird one.
Even if we like have the people who know how to sew and the people who know how to do this,
they still have to have a leader.
We have the culmination of knowledge in a group, but we still have to have this like ideological leader to like dictate like who gets stitches on this day, and like, and where does the food go? Who's more important? We have this hierarchy ingrained in our fucking DNA, I think.
Well, or do you think that's just attributes of skills? Because if you're in an emergency situation, I can guarantee you most people will be waiting to be told what to do. And I don't know if that's cultural because we've been so, cradle to the grave institutionalization. You start when you're little, line up here.
It's been so long
do what you're told.
now, yeah.
And so your brain is wired to be told. And then there are some of us that know how to jump in there and take command because they can see a void, and is that DNA? Are there just some of us that are wired to see a void?
Might be.
But you're right. That is a huge problem. We'll just start all over again.
I would love to know more about this, but unfortunately, the only thing we have to go off of is like some bones buried in the ground and some pottery or something. You know what I mean? Like the archaeological
stuff is.
And we can only really form assumptions based on very little evidence. Like, and some of those assumptions might be pretty correct, and they kind of fit in with certain stories they've made up about history, but like nothing was written down back in the caveman days. Like when I picture caveman days, my first like original like thought about it is like it was like one dude and a lady. They were reproducing. I don't even know. Like I impute my knowledge of society from my upbringing and my surroundings and reality that I live in, and that imputes on my idea of like historical culture because that's what I'm used to. I can't even like imagine how it used to be back then.
You're making sense of things from your experience, which is a large part why we have so many troubles is everybody's experience is different.
Yeah, but did we always group up? I mean, it always boils down to the question like, was it Adam and Eve? Did it start out with just two people and it reproduced into like a massive amount of people, or like
inbreeding?
Did evolution form multiple groups in different places? I always wondered that, and I think we will never know. Science has ideas and religion has ideas and everybody has ideas, but like we'll never know. But like back when there was survival times that the preppers would love to be back in, because they have all the resources for it and the knowledge, right?
Well, it's easy if you have
because they have their fucking Carhartts and everything.
Tactical.
But they didn't have that shit back then. They had sticks and rocks, and they didn't. There was a time where we didn't even have fucking fire.
No.
But were there groups of people surviving together who didn't have fire, or was it like just little tiny groups of people, maybe a dude and a chick and
I think everybody was pretty hostile. You had to be. Everything was trying to kill you. I don't know. There's no way to know. But the only way to know is if we had a massive eclipse that didn't render the planet uninhabitable, and then we started all over. I guess we would know then.
We would know then. But I'm curious. The only reason I'm curious about that is because it's like important to know how we would be in that scenario, like when that happens.
I think we'd be a lot more feral.
Because that'll tell us like is how ingrained in our DNA is it? Does our DNA even remember some of that stuff?
I think that's where prepping comes from.
Yeah, I think it might. Yeah.
I think some of us are more wired into that survival instinct than others.
Possibly, yeah. It might be bloodlines for sure.
Well, just look at me. I said because of food and the issues when I was younger, as far as, food was not, we couldn't just have whatever we wanted. I have a thing about food. I want a year's supply of food in my house. It's just some weird, and I do. I have a year's supply, easily.
For sure.
But it's not because I'm scared of the end of the world. It's more of stuff happens and you might break your leg, and it's more of a survival thing. I don't know.
And then another thought.
I don't want to live in the
another
apocalypse.
thought on prepping.
Okay.
And I was going to bring this up earlier, but I couldn't find a way to sandwich this in. But I'll just bring it up now.
No, just throw it in there.
So
it's a thought sandwich.
So this one's a little hard to articulate, but like there's a lot of, if not most animal species on the planet, their entire life, it's just getting food, and just for that day. Not even for like, most animals don't even hoard food for even an hour later.
No.
They they kill something, and they eat what they have to eat, and they move on to the next thing they have to kill. And that's all their life is getting food. Exactly. Why are humans so different? I mean, there's a few species I can't even think of all of them, but there's a few species I'm sure that hoard food for a couple days at least, The problem with food is it doesn't last long on its own. No. There's this thing called rot. Like animals never figured out canning foods for them to store for fucking years.
But we did, and now we have freeze-dried food that'll last 30 years. Thank God we're smart enough
to do that, yes, and that's awesome. But why did we get that ability and not... Are we going to also see other animals start to do that? Like chimps just hit the Stone Age, apparently. I don't know how... This is speculation. But there was these National Geographic articles and other articles that were like, here we go with sensationalizing again, but like there were some chimps that finally figured out how to use stones to crack open shellfish. And there's plenty of other food sources for them, but they like the damn shellfish, so they fucking figured out how to use that rock to crack it open.
Yeah, but animals have been intuitive lots of times. Like otters
we may not even have came from chimps for sure. Oh, but like if we did, they're starting to just slowly but surely. Like, how long till they have nuclear weapons?
I don't want a bonobo chimp. No.
Like think about it. And maybe this is even where we came from. Okay, but think about it. Like if we found an Earth-like planet that we could get to. Complete hypothetical, because it's the numbers are astronomical and not going to happen, and it could be thousands of generations before it does. But we find this Earth-like planet. It's fucking close, but it's uninhabited by life other than like maybe plants. That's the stupid part. If a fucking planet has plants, it's gonna have other life forms.
It has to have some sort of,
I would think, right? I don't know for sure, but I'm just speculating.
No, but plants can't live without that stuff.
Exactly. Like they need mammals or whatever to die to eat them to be a plant, right?
It's that symbiosis thing.
So if we
all
found
part of a system.
So we found an Earth-like planet that has trees, there's gonna be other life. But anyway, let's pretend that there's no like mammals or whatever, and we drop a bunch of fucking monkeys on this planet. Okay?
Like Planet of the Apes?
How long until they have nuclear bombs? Is that why there's so many UFO sightings all of a sudden? Because we finally figured out how to crack the atom in half?
Maybe
and we figured out space travel and like...
They figured out
or maybe UFOs are fake and there really isn't any aliens and like it's all just crazy. But like seemingly there's more UFOs now. It seems like UFO sightings and major humanity accomplishments went kind of hand in hand, and I don't know if there's anything to that. We're just talking about a thought experiment here. Were we monkeys that got placed on this planet that could sustain life because of its conditions, and we just have nuclear bombs now? It just took us a while, but now we have technology.
We also
is that a thing?
haven't wrecked the planet with them yet.
Were we an experiment? Because why are we so special? I think we already talked about this, but like, why are we so special that we figured out how to be preppers? That we can prep? Why are we special like that? Why do we have the ability to look that far ahead in the future and prepare for the worst?
Because that's a question
and other animals
of consciousness.
Normally don't.
We have that and they don't.
Yeah.
They have personalities. Animals are amazing and complex, but we are a step different than they are because of the ability to reason and conscious. Well, when I say reason, we have the ability to make decisions based on how we feel.
Yeah.
And they're not instinctual. It's like we can actually remove ourselves from a situation and be like, hey, 20 years down the road, I might lose my leg and I need this food to survive. Like, I don't know an animal that does that. I know animals that instinctually store food, but they don't store food because they know Jimbo might set off a nuke. Well, it's
really,
true. Like,
thank God Jimbo doesn't have a nuke.
Well, think about
thank God it's only world leaders, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Think about the people that have been in charge of the ability to blow up the planet, and that we haven't. And that right there might make you think that the world might have been created. Why
does any people on this planet have the ability to end life on this planet? That's the scary part.
It is a little terrifying.
Prepping aside, like, I'm glad we have the ability to prep and we have the technology to prep. But, like, realistically, I gotta talk about why in the world do we have fucking nuclear weapons? Was it that scary in the fucking Cold War? Like, was communism that scary that we built these devices to end the planet? If communism started to spread a little too fast, like, really?
Well,
that scares me. Just an ideology caused us to create technology that can destroy the entire planet.
And then we arms raced it.
Now every fucking buddy has them.
Yeah.
And we don't know what to do. Now we don't know what to do with them. Do we launch them? Do we let them sit there? We wasted all that money on it. When are we going to use them? Are we going to use them? There was this idea to start using them just to experiment in space with them, which is cool. That's awesome. We have them. We might as well use them, right?
Well, because they are degrading.
But that's a slippery slope, right?
I don't know. And once
we start using them for one thing, we're going to
drop it over here.
Once we get used to using them for one thing, we're going to start to get used to fucking, maybe we should just drop that over there.
I love that we have all of these weapons, but then we don't use nuclear for power because we're scared of it. And so much improvements.
We do in America.
But not to the degree that we should. And there's a lot of research that's actually going on in our colleges. I have firsthand knowledge of this, of being able to use our old worn out fuel and making things, energy for the future that's
Time's
clean.
running out too, though.
Because
they really have to make these decisions quickly.
It's leaking into the rivers.
Because those fucking bombs have a shelf life.
We've already had to decommission a lot
of
them.
There's not here's the scary thing about these bombs and these nuclear power plants and this fuel is like we still haven't even really figured out how to store the shit.
No, it's leaking in our rivers.
And it costs so much to launch it to space that it would use the nuclear power in the first place.
I feel like.
So that's the problem. We have this technology, but I think it ultimately will be the end of us. Whether it's bombs. Or we just fucking run out of places to put the nuclear fuel and it gets into our water supply and we just all die of cancer.
But nuclear improvements have
Maybe
also...
One
time I had to eat radioactive oatmeal to find out what was wrong with my digestive system. Some of the advances that we've had, which is probably going to kill me later, but it wasn't that type of radioactivity.
It's not good for you, that's for sure.
But I'm just saying some of the advances
it might be beneficial at that time for that one medical procedure.
But then it's going to probably...
But the doctors do the cost-benefit analysis. Like, yes, you'll get cancer in 40 years, but we should figure out what's wrong with you now.
Well, and then on the flip side...
They do that. Like, it's not a pure thing. It's not like... like chemotherapy, for instance.
Yeah, is the cure worse
You're
than
blasting
the disease?
yourself with radioactive isotopes to kill the cancer, but it does shorten your lifespan. Like, you're really buying yourself instant time, but you're taking away off the back end. Like, nothing comes for free.
Well, that's why I don't think if I'm 80 and I say, oh, hey, here, go get chemo radiation, you can live 2 more years. Why? Hell with that.
Yeah. Or like David Rothschild with his like 19th heart transplant or whatever the fuck. I'm
like
exaggerating and I don't know what I'm talking about, but like as a meme. Like,
it's that cost you know what it is actuaries.
The motherfucker's only going to live 10 years.
Insurance companies have tons of them. You're comparing and contrasting all of these different things to see what the most benefit can be from which decision. And I think that's the nuclear thing. I think they were invented out of necessity.
They're just prepping.
They were prepping.
They're just on a whole nother level, and then Jim Bob down the road.
Dang
with
it.
his bunker.
It's just that Jim Bob could touch it bothers me. Like, I'm all...
Yeah. Well, what are we going to do when society collapses? Someone's going to find those nuke storages.
What do you mean when? You know, an entire country failed. Like when Russia did the whole collapse thing, you know that there is nuclear things around out there that terrorists have got a hold of. And
let's just put it this way. When society collapses, fucking Jim Bob's going to find the nuke storages.
And he's going to be
then
like,
what?
Woo! Well, hopefully he won't have the technological aptitude to turn it on.
Is he going to be Space Daddy? Because he found all the nukes?
He's going to
Because if anyone tries to take those nukes, he's just going to end all life on the planet. Here we go. Mutually assured destruction.
I think if
One of my favorite topics.
I love mutually assured destruction. I like talking about it.
I love that concept.
I think if the gas station and the power's off for a week, that there'll be absolute chaos if it was global anyway, so...
It's on a philosophical level, man. Nukes are fucking really scary.
They are truly...
Because if one person decides to get that fucking hair up their ass, we're all going to do it. Then all life on planet's dead. Can you even imagine that? Like, that's a thing.
I know.
Like, if North Korea really just... They don't care anymore, we're fucked. Everybody on Earth is fucked. I don't think we'll actually follow that, though. It might be on paper. We might have that.
Know.
We might have that agreement on paper.
Do you think Vladimir's not going to torch off a nuke if, say, someone shoots one at him? He's just going to be like, I'm going to let that go.
He's going to annihilate their entire country.
They poison people.
But is everybody going to really be on board? Like, we have this thing in our DNA called like
life sustaining.
We have this like instinct to not kill all the life on the planet. So like, I doubt everybody's going to follow the rules on mutually assured destruction. So like, the people who don't. Their life sucks. This is why prepping is a thing. Because, like, some countries are going to nuke the fuck out of each other, obliterate half the Earth, but the other half now has to live in the nuclear fallout with their fucking MREs and their bunkers.
We have spent a week in the dark.
That's what I mean here.
Can you imagine years in the dark?
Oh, yeah.
That's what it would be. The planet would be horrible. It would
why would you want to live like that? Here we go back to that whole thing. Like, why would you want to live in a nuclear winter?
I want everybody to come together and be like, we all can't agree on the same ideology, but we could at least agree that, hey, these people live over here.
Yeah.
And the planet is big enough for different classes of people to live together. And I shouldn't say classes, but groups.
Right.
Like, there's people that might want to live in a socialist paradise. Fine. You guys go over there. As long as it's not forced and the people who live there agree to it, then you guys knock yourselves out.
We need to, you know what we need to do? It's like, we need to start thinking about how we can build really awesome space stations that are awesome to live on. Have kind of the same conditions Earth has, you know. God damn it. I'm thinking like Bezos again.
I know.
Because he legitimately has this idea that we're going to fucking run out of resources and we're going to need to build these space stations in space. Here's his delusion. Where are you going to get all the materials to build this space station to sustain the life from space? How are we going to eat? We're going to eat each other?
I don't...
Because we need the food to... Even if we 3D print the food, we need the raw materials, right? Where are we going to get it all? Like, if the Earth's going to run out, how are we going to have all that in space? The moon doesn't have fucking shit to eat.
But, Brady, every technological advance and innovation makes things happen, okay? Because we've not ran out of fuel yet, and they've been saying we're going to run out of fuel for years.
Yeah, well, they always say that. That's because they want you to buy more at a higher price.
But I'm just saying that the
elements... They want you to hoard it.
We are subatomic particles aligned in certain ways, and so is food. Yeah. And so there's ways to do things. I don't want to eat other people. We talked about Soylent Green and Blue last week. I don't...
Honestly, I'd always rather just put a bullet in my head when it comes down to it. Like, if I was in the Donner Party, sorry, I'm going to put a bullet in my head. You can eat me at that point. I'm that guy. I'm not the guy who's going to... I'm not the guy who's going to eat Susie.
No.
Okay?
Well, I don't know, though. Have you ever
been that hungry? I don't want to try
hungry?
it. I don't care. That's where the bullet comes in.
But I've heard you go mad.
Yeah, but that's where the bullet comes in, because at that point, when I know that that's it,
you're going to go bullet?
Yeah, when I get hungry now, I know I'm probably going to have a meal in a few hours. It's okay. I might get a little hangry, you know, I can go get a Snickers bar at the fucking store. If that gets taken away and I'm just in a pure survival situation, and like I said, if I was in the Donner Party, I'm that guy, I'm just going to end my own life somehow. You all can eat me. I'm fine with that. But
I just had a moment of enlightenment.
But like, I'm not gonna. I don't want to eat people.
I fast all the time. I'm a prepper.
Technically.
Well,
yeah.
just think about
me too. I only eat dinner. I don't eat lunch or breakfast.
I was just thinking about
that.
The fasting. We're preparing for the end. Brady, we're preparing for the end.
I have an English muffin in the toaster. I forgot about.
Oh, you're wasting sacred food.
Oh, people are gonna hate me for that.
Oh.
Wasting food.
No, you can turn it into croutons. You're okay. Just let it dry out. Put some butter on it. Throw it in the oven. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
it's cool.
But like straight up, like. Okay, back to my thought. I'm sorry, I went off the rails.
Sorry, I just had a moment.
I went off on Bezos, but like what I was trying to say is like
fulfillment.
You were just talking about all these. If you want to go live with socialism stuff, like how about we get off the earth? Because apparently that's what the problem is the limited land, and we all have to live around each other.
There's so much land.
Let's go in our let's do this experiment, okay? Let's build 35 fucking space stations that are awesome, okay?
Okay.
Again, it's totally hypothetical, but let's build 35 space stations that are awesome.
Okay.
And we can start these groups on these space stations, echo chambers. Okay? Call it Echo 1, Echo 2, Echo 3, right? They'll have the code names. Put the communists on one. We'll put the fucking Republicans on one, the Democrats on... Let's see how fucking long they last. It'll be a reality show, okay?
So operate...
What happens when we live in just our own chamber as a group?
It would never be good.
With all the resources, we won't limit the resources.
We're going to give them resources?
We won't limit the resources beyond what is possible.
Is this going to stream on Amazon Prime?
Please?
I would watch it.
I don't know. I just talked shit about Jeff, so I don't know.
No, you're not. You're asking him questions.
I do want to know, like, really, Jeff Bezos, answer my question. Like, you talk about building this utopia space station in between here and the moon or whatever, but, like, where are we going to get the food? Like, if your idea is the planet's dying and can't sustain life, where are you going to get the food?
Well, and he has the resources
are you trying to
start the idea.
Here's my tinfoil hat. Like, are you trying to kill everybody off?
Is that what
Are you one of the Illuminati? You're trying to depopulate so that we can keep the Earth alive so we can live in space?
Well, let's bring it back down.
That's the only way this is going to work. We keep the Earth alive.
Let's talk about seasteading, because we could do this group thing with seasteading. There's plenty.
Yeah, fuck space. We got an ocean.
And it's huge. We only live on 30% of the surface area of this planet. Why not going underground? There's a huge amount of land
underground. It's easier to go into
underground.
space than it is in the ocean for some reason.
Do you think?
That's what I've heard
Why?
from scientists.
There's tons of reefs. What?
Because it's easier to live in a vacuum than crushing depths. I think it's easier to build structures for a vacuum than it is to build structures for the entire weight of the fucking Pacific Ocean on top of you.
Let's compare and contrast that to getting the resources you need into the vacuum, because that's our biggest problem. We need a new fuel source.
You're right. I think as far as like resource transportation, it probably would be easier to get it to the ocean for sure than it would be into space.
Yeah.
Like space travel is hard. We make it look easy, but it's hard. Oh. It looks easy when you're watching it on your fucking 8K TV.
Well, that's because you're not living it. You're observing it.
Exactly. You're like, oh, cool. They launched another rocket.
Yeah,
the adversity they face to launch that. Gravity is a fucking bitch. And the fact that we ever figured out how to create the forces to break that, to go into space, holy shit, that's amazing.
We are pretty
The fact
amazing.
that we sent Voyager 1, the fact that that's out there that fucking far away from Earth is like amazing.
No, Kylie Jenner's going without makeup in her bravery of it is more important. I saw that.
That adversity's so hard.
Yeah, I saw that they had put Voyager right next to that, and they're like, why is... What? I'm sorry, but...
I'm sorry. The hurdles that just life in general...
massive achievement, and then
that's what I love about
no makeup.
The hurdles that even the most basic forms of life have jumped through to survive on this fucking crazy planet with all these forces trying to kill it.
And we trivialize it with no makeup.
Oh my god, no makeup.
Nails.
My English muffin that's in the toaster. God damn it. I have to reheat that now. I'm pissed.
Yeah, but Voyager...
I'm wasting emotional resources on my English muffin.
That's another thing. You know how the world...
When there's so much adversity.
We are trying to be so productive, and every second of our day is being tracked to try to squeeze that much more productivity out.
Yeah.
You have killed something by not eating that English muffin.
There's a lot of wheat that died to make that thing.
Yeah, and your productivity has gone way down because of it.
Definitely.
And that's another thing about...
But I traded it for... podcast productivity. Is that even productive?
What is okay, that's...
Are we really being productive by fucking blabbing in your eardrums right now?
That's the hierarchy of importance.
What is important? What is productivity?
Is importance subjective? I always
Absolutely.
wondered that.
It seems like it is. Even if it's not, even if inherently it's subjective, we've made it subjective.
I think we have, because what's important to a mayfly is not important to me.
Well, what's important to almost every other animal species on Earth is getting food for that day. Like I said earlier, that's what's important to them. Survival on an almost minute by minute basis. Yet here we are fucking, oh my God, I haven't got my tax return yet. Is it ever going to come?
Do you know what I just thought of?
I need to buy an MRE.
Prepping, in a way, puts us beyond living in the moment. And so I feel like there are anxiety disorders that can come from prepping too much. Because you're going to always be thinking
I'm sure they do. I'm sure there's a paranoia involved in it.
Well, and I'm just thinking about with an animal, they live in the moment, okay? I know that we are mentally healthier if we live in the moment. So there has to be this way to live where you can prep because you do know on a conscious level that things are not going to be good, but that you can also stay living in the moment and that you don't become a mental case. Because some of the people that prep too much, they're the ones that get into that bubble, of I need to isolate. I got to protect my hoard at all costs. Everybody's coming to get me. Those are the ones.
Got to protect me, my wife, and my 3 kids and my dog.
Yeah, and those are the people that I am not mocking you. I'd like to talk to you more, and I actually am related to some people.
Yeah, we're not trying to mock you guys. We'd love to talk to you guys. But do you see,
you live in a state of fear, and I think fear is where a lot of our problems come from. It's that fight or flight thing where, I got to do this because this person's, and that's where social media comes in and stokes the fear fire that those Democrats are going to kill us or those Republicans are going to take away our right to, do whatever. And it's like, well, really, they're not doing that. Loss. Yeah, it is a fear of loss.
Prepping has that.
What is your major fear?
The reason everybody thinks it's the end of the world because of a president. First of all, that's fucking absurd.
It is.
We've always had presidents, Democrat or Republican or whatever. The world's never ended because we have a president. We have these checks and balances that we've created in the Constitution and the rules of America.
And they're still working.
They will not allow the president to really do all that much, other than instill the Patriot Act or fucking allow the military to step in on a riot. They really can't do all that much. They have control of the nukes, but there's still a chain of command in order to even be able to push that button. They still have to get permission from all these different chains of command to do it.
And that's my...
the president doesn't have the codes. One general guy or whatever has the code. I'm sorry, I wish I knew the exact metric.
There's a protocol.
I think it's top secret anyway how it works, but in my mind, there's protocols. There's a chain of command. One guy has half the code, the other guy has the other half the code. You have to get them on board, and then you have to, the one guy has control of the computer you put the code into, and then someone has to hit the button.
And then the pilot still has to drop certain ones, or they have to go out of the silo. It just depends on the type.
It was different in the Cold War, where, it was literally a push of a button. They had the fucking finger over the button, because if Russia launches, we need to be able to fucking launch. We can't go through those protocols, because we don't have time. Because if that missile hits, we're fucked. We're going to hit with the missile, but we have to make sure we send our missiles. Because God forbid we get hit without hitting them back. Yeah. We're going to go down fighting. But nowadays there's legitimate fucking protocols they have to go through from what I've heard, where it's not as easy as Trump just picks up the red fucking phone and goes launch. It's not that easy.
He can't do
There's other people. And then even if he had that power, would somebody actually follow that? There was that story from the Cold War where the dude almost ended the whole world. But he made a conscious decision not to follow the protocols of I get this data from this computer, and if that data comes in this certain way, I have to launch. He didn't do that and prevented nuclear fucking war because he realized, wait, this computer sometimes has these glitches. I've seen this before. I should probably double check first. Even though his protocol demanded push the fucking button if this happens immediately.
Now we're going back to consciousness.
Yeah, he was not ordered to think and question the computer. He was ordered, when the computer tells me this, push the button and launch. And he didn't do that.
Well, thank goodness.
So, like I said, if Trump or Biden or whatever had the ability just to do that, I don't think somebody would just do that just because Trump fucking was pissed off at Russia at the time or whatever.
Well, you can't replicate if you're dead.
I don't know why I went down that tangent, but seriously,
it's okay.
Oh yeah, my point was people think it's the end of the world because of a presidential election. It's dude, they can't even do that much. It's just a president. So why is everybody so scared? Why is everybody prepping why is everybody buying 22 rounds because fucking we're about to have a presidential election. We have one every 4 years. Calm down.
I think this year is more of it's a cumulative fear because we've had the Rona, we've had the fires, we've had riots in the towns, we've had all of this stuff converge, and so it's a little bit more fear. The fear has not had time to abate. Usually we have a trauma, and then it abates a little bit. Then we have a trauma, and now it's just stacking.
Well, it's kind of the religious fanatics who every 10 years they have this idea that the world's ending because of their... I'm sorry, I gotta say it. The end of the world prophecies that are in the religious texts, no matter what religion you have, there is some. They're so vague that anytime a little hint of something that might, it's kind of like astrology. Anytime a little hint of something that might kind of fit in the space there happens, it's God's coming down to smite us. It's the second kingdom or whatever. I don't fucking know. I'm sorry. I'm memeing right now. But why? why is it the end of the world every 10 years?
Well, and why do you seek the end of the world?
Why is it the end of the world because the president's about to get elected? Why is it the end of the world if fucking the next iPhone ain't gonna come out?
I don't know.
Why is it the end of the world when Kylie Jenner can't get her fucking makeup?
I don't know.
Why do these alert signals go off in our heads as humans?
Is it all about dopamine?
Yeah, I'm asking existentially now.
Maybe like perpetual fear gives us some sort of biochemical like high that when we live in that state that we feel like we're making sense of things. Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Here's my hypothesis. Okay.
I like hypothesis.
The reason we have these alerts in the first place in our DNA, because it seems like a reactionary thing, is because we've been through apocalypses before.
We have.
And survived, and little bits of people survived, and they rebuilt society. And I think it's happened a few times. There's a few less popular scientists, I should say, that think that they think they have evidence that we've been through multiple, like, complete wipeouts of people where only a few thousand or a few hundred people survived, and they had to rebuild everything. And so I'm wondering if that put these alerts in our DNA where, like, if a certain amount of adversity happens, it's the end of the world and we have to prepare.
Well, and that might be how our species perpetuate, because you said that's how you...
Again, it's a survival mechanism. Like, it has to be.
But it's all out of whack because we have 24-hour news cycles now, though.
I think that might be wrong. We're getting, just like the guy in the Cold War, we're getting glitched out information from the simulation or whatever.
Information is not even accurate. And then you get information fatigue. You're just like, oh, just turn it off. I'm done. I can't.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
So I think it's a survival mechanism that's being corrupted by just not accurate input from the world around us.
Well, and then if you look at it on the scope of time, we haven't had last century we wiped out a lot of us with war. So I wonder if this century it's
not anywhere near enough to be considered like dire.
No.
It was enough to be bad, but it wasn't like we're at risk of extinction.
We haven't had one of those extinction events. They say we're living in one right now because of the way we're using our resources.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a meteor hits, we're all dead instantly. Like, extinction events could last thousands of years.
There's a book called, is it The Sixth Extinction, that's been making its rounds through the library.
I've heard of this before.
And it's that we are living in an extinction event because we're not taking care of things, and we're running our train off into a dirt road ourselves. Yeah,
so wouldn't that be some shit if we cause our own extinction? I've always thought about that
book.
too.
I might have to read it.
I thought about that. Well, a lot of that whole dystopian.
Isn't there like a ton of movies and books about us killing?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's like a pretty popular trope.
Like, yeah, it's pretty much a meme at this point. Like, we're gonna cause our own destruction. Maybe that's true, but I don't know. We have these mechanisms of survival too. Some of us are gonna survive no matter what we do as a mass. Some of us will survive because they're Jeff Bezos.
They have the resources too.
Yeah, because they're Jeff Bezos and they're Donald Trump and they're important apparently.
Well,
so
I don't
they're gonna
have
they have these. They have preppers will survive. I'm sorry, they will.
Well,
in certain scenarios, preppers will survive. My real question, like, what are you gonna do after that, guys? How are we gonna rebuild society? Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan to rebuild society? Are you gonna fuck your sister because you guys are the only two left?
Yucky.
I'm sorry to get a little graphic there, but
but I read this book in the fourth grade that has stuck with me my whole life. There was nuclear destruction, okay? And this girl survived, and she just had to start having babies. I remember reading this, and a lot of them died, but then eventually some were born, and they had ultraviolet eyes, and they had white hair covering them to reflect the atmosphere was messed up.
Okay.
So it was
They've adapted to
the person that wrote the book. It was a sci-fi book. I just remember I was like a blistering 10 years old, but it traumatized me a little bit because it was like what they had. She died of radiation burns and stuff eventually because they were breathing in dust mites. Oh
yeah.
But she still perpetuated life. It was just no longer life as we know it.
Right.
And I think that's the whole thing with prepping. What are you going to perpetuate? Have you thought about it?
Yeah,
why do you want to keep going on?
It's one thing to give yourself 30 years, but what are you going to do?
And do you want?
Are you going to build up something where you don't have to live off of your stored resources?
Are you going to be like Brendan Fraser? You're going to be really good at swing dancing? You remember that movie? What?
I just imagine, like, in a world where society is different and everybody just knows how to swing dance because that's what the last person knew how to do.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Oh, man, we're going to go in a bunker now only. What would we know how to do coming
Seriously,
out
guys,
here?
what are you going to take in your bunker? Honestly, if I had to give advice to preppers, and I'm not an expert by any means, but, like, books. Fill that fucking bunker with books, man. Seriously.
We should totally leave it here because we're going to have to stop.
Yeah.
What would you take in your bunker? Like, what would you want to perpetuate as a human, and give to the next group after?
Yeah, if anyone would like to interact with us, everybody, please jump on social media. Let's have a discussion about what you would put in your bunker.
We know you've thought about this.
Yeah.
Like every human has thought
has,
about
yeah.
the apocalypse and prepping and bunkers. And what do you think?
And
I wanna know.
honestly, I would love to see the different prepper factions fight each other over what goes in the bunker. Please. It's entertaining.
Last prepper
in
standing.
a world where everybody dances because the last 3 humans on Earth only knew how to dance.
Netflix, could you? I know everybody hates you right now because of cuties, but could you guys please make Last Prepper Standing?
I just imagine the new society is just Footloose.
Oh my gosh.
Or Roadhouse.
Oh.
Or like that Saturday Night Fever.
Or Mad Max.
Yeah.
But they're
just
doing
the only thing the last sanction of humanity knew how to do was fucking dance and store food and stuff.
Would it be twerking and eating Mountain House?
Yeah, is everybody gonna is Duckface the new hello? Like, what's gonna happen? I want to know. This is gonna be an interesting conversation. Please get involved. Please communicate with us and tell us your thoughts on what are you gonna put in your bunker.
Yes.
What's the world gonna be like? After the 30 years food supply lasts, are we gonna have?
What dance would you do when you come out?
What's gonna be your favorite dance? Is it gonna be the fucking Fortnite dances? Is that what we're bringing with us to the apocalypse?
I hope not.
Is that what we're bringing with us to Mars?
They're in
no. Fortnite dances? Is that gonna be? What if that's the only dances left? If seriously the last sanction of humanity they only knew 3 dances? It's not like you can know everything about dance. Like as we are now, we have a lot of different people who know a lot of different dances, and that's why we have diversity.
We like that.
When the end of the world happens, like we're only gonna know like a dance each, maybe.
Oh gosh.
Like, we're only gonna know 3 dances. We only have 3 dances left. We're gonna have to make them up again. These are the things that preppers don't think about. I don't think.
These are the important.
And that's
things.
what we're here for.
Yeah.
To fill your ears with weird ideas. Yeah. We're asking the hard questions here.
What dance will you come out of the bunker knowing?
Are we ever gonna have popsicles again? Like, is that ever gonna be? Are we ever gonna figure out? Like, you put those monkeys on that Earth-like planet. Like, are they ever going to figure out freezers? Is Otter Pops ever going to be a thing? Are they going to be called Otter Pops?
No, they'll probably be like Raccoon Pops.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even know.
I love that thought experiment because it's so amazing to think about. Like, what would monkeys do if we put them on that fucking planet and they evolved into humans? What's the slight differences that would happen? Would they be exactly the same?
Okay,
would history perpetuate almost frame for frame how we are right now in society? Like, would we come up to Donald Trump versus fucking Biden
somebody
in
really
2020
needs
on the
to
new
write
planet?
A screenplay for this.
Yeah, I think there might already be.
I hope so.
Like Planet of the Apes, but they're just hairier than us, but it's the same society.
But it'd be like Planet of the Apes Centauri Alpha 51 or something. Like, it needs to be.
Well, that's what Planet of the Apes is like they had a society just like ours, if not a little bit more primitive, but like they just had more hair than us.
Do you think they'll ride horses? Because.
And why are we not hairy anymore? Why did we not even? If we came from chimps, why did we de-evolve the hair? Like, was it just selective breeding? Was it ugly? Was it stinky?
Or did we even come from them?
Was syphilis more of a problem when we had more hair?
Yikes.
On that note.
Bye.
Bye. So prepping's definitely not a bad idea, and today's article that we're going to do is kind of less positive more than it's about how you can start prepping on a budget, because everybody should do it, and it's definitely affordable to get started.
So if you're interested in prepping, head on over to apocalypseninja.com, the article we linked, and give it a look. And yes, we picked that website because the name is super cool.
So make sure you head on over to our social media pages and give us your opinions on this episode, maybe discuss some of the content, and smash that like button if you're on YouTube.